Here's the question. Here's the question. God accepted Abel's sacrifice because it's from the flock, whereas God did not accept Cain's sacrifice because it's from the harvest. Now, what you're asking me is, does that suggest that because Cain gave God from the harvest and not an animal sacrifice, that's why it was rejected?
So, yeah, kind of just like Jesus being the lamb, he covers us, and they would sacrifice lamb. So, yeah.
No, not that. Because if you read the law of Moses, the Israelites were required to give the first fruits of their harvest to God. So it cannot be that reason. So when you hear people saying, well, because Cain gave from the harvest, not a sacrifice, no. Actually, no.
Okay. Because
in the law of Moses, Israelites were required to give the first fruits of their harvest to God. That wasn't the reason. Okay. That wasn't the reason. What was the reason? God tells you. Because Cain had an evil heart. Okay. Sure. Here, if you guys want to know the answer, it's in the Bible. You don't need to guess. Okay, guys, pay attention. Here it is. Now the man knew his wife Eve, and she conceived and gave birth to Cain, and she said, I've gotten a man with the help of Yahweh. And again, she gave birth to his brother Abel. Abel was a keeper of flocks, but Cain was a cultivator of the ground. Now, why would God expect Cain to give an animal when he was a cultivator of the ground? You see the problem?
Yeah.
Cain is giving from his line of work, cultivating the ground. He's a tiller of the ground. He's a gardener. Abel is giving from his line of work. He's a shepherd. He's a keeper of flocks. So why would God expect Cain to give something other than from what he does? He tills the ground, so give a produce from the ground, when it's Abel who keeps flocks. So the answer is because Cain did not give it from a pure heart. His heart was tainted because of jealousy and anger. How do I know? Well, let's read. So it happened in the course of time that Cain brought an offering to Yahweh, the fruit of the ground. Abel on his part also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat portions. So do you expect Abel to give produce from the ground when he's a shepherd? What would you expect Abel to give? From what he does, right? From the flock, correct?
Yeah.
Then why would we expect Cain to give an animal sacrifice when he was a tiller of the ground? So if he's a tiller of the ground, what do we expect him to give? Fruit from the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, so then what was the problem? Here's the problem. And Yahweh had regard for Abel and for his offering, but for Cain and for his offering, he had no regard. So now the reason. So Cain became very Cain. Why are you angry? And why has your countenance fallen? If you do well, notice what he did not say. If you had given me an animal, right, will not your countenance be lifted up? No. If you do well. Mm-hmm. And if you do not do well, here's a warning. Sin is lying at the door and its desires for you, but you must rule over it. Then Cain spoke to Abel, his brother, and it happened when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel, his brother, and killed him. So God saw his heart. That's what 1 Samuel 16:7 says. God does not see as man sees. He sees the heart. And God saw that Cain's heart was prone to evil, and he's warning him. Notice, guys, what God did not say. He didn't say, if you had given me an animal. No. If you do well, will not your face be lifted up? And if you do not do well, I'm warning you, there's something wrong with your heart, with your attitude, with your spirit. And I see through you. I'm looking at your heart. And it's not right. And therefore sin, this is a demon called sin, is at the door, and it's going to control you if you don't conquer it. Sadly, Cain gave in to sin and became controlled by it. To the point now he lies to God. Then Yahweh said to Cain, where is Abel your brother? And he said, I do not know. Am I my brother's keeper? He thought he could murder Abel and get away with it, and God would not know. And he said, what have you done? The voice of your brother's blood is crying out to me from the ground. So the simple answer is, Cain's heart, his attitude, his spirit, his disposition wasn't right. Whereas Abel's was.
Okay.
That's why, notice what Hebrews 11 says. Hebrews 11, watch here. Hebrews 11, verse 4. By faith, Abel offered to God a better sacrifice than Cain. What made it better? His heart, because he was sincere before the Lord, through which he was approved as being righteous, God approving his gifts, and through faith, though he is dead, he still speaks. That's the answer. And so you understand the point, folks. God doesn't see only your deeds. He sees your heart. Here, let me show you. Okay, let me show you from Scripture. And he saw Cain's heart was not right. Cain's heart was not right. Okay, let me show you. And he's warning Cain, check your attitude, your disposition, your heart. 1 Samuel 16:7. But Yahweh said to Samuel, do not look at his appearance or at the height of his stature, because I've rejected him. For God sees not as man sees, for man looks at the outward appearance, but Yahweh looks at the heart. Right? Let me give you another verse. 1 second before I move on. Right here you go. Watch here. Yahweh looks at your motivations, your inclinations, your disposition, your inner person, not just your deeds. But Yahweh looks at the heart. And here, Jeremiah 17:10. I, Yahweh, search the heart. See, he's looking at your heart. He's looking at your thoughts. He's looking at your desires. Why are you doing what you're doing? I test the inmost being, your inner person, even to give to each man according to his ways, according to the fruit of his deeds. That's the answer, folks. Are you getting it? Everyone listening? Now, watch here. 2 Corinthians 5:10. For we must all appear before the judgment seat of Christ, so that each one may be recompensed for his deeds in the body, according to what he has done, whether good or bad. Now, when Christ will judge us, may he have mercy on us, may the blood of Christ wash us. Is he just going to judge you for your deeds? No. Watch here. 1 Corinthians 4, verses 3 and 5. Paul is telling the Corinthians, I could care less if people judge me. I could care less if people condemn me. I don't give a damn about your opinion, because you're not my judge. And I answer to the Lord. So go ahead, condemn me. What are you? That's what he's saying here, basically. You don't believe me here. But to me, it is a very small thing that I be examined by you. To me, I could give a damn if you're going to examine me and question me, or by any human court. In fact, I don't even examine myself. Now, let me explain what he means here. You guys got to learn this. He's saying, I don't even trust my own assessment of my faith and my deeds. I don't even go by my own assessment, my self-analysis. Why? Because I can be deceived. Watch here. Watch here. For I am conscious of nothing against myself, yet I am not by this acquitted. Did you understand what he just said? I don't even trust my own opinion, my self-assessment, because I can be deceived. Even though I'm not aware of anything that I'm guilty of, that doesn't mean I'm acquitted. You know why? I can be wrong. I can be deceived. I can be fooling myself. But who's going to examine me? The Lord. But the one who examines me is the Lord. Now look at the warning. Therefore, do not go on passing judgment before the time, but wait until the Lord comes, who will bring forth to light, who will both bring to light the things hidden in darkness and make manifest the motives of the hearts. Damn. He looks at your heart. He looks at your motives. He looks at why you did what you did. And then each one's praise will come to him from God. You understand what Paul just said, folks? You understand what Paul just said? I don't even trust my own self-assessment. I may be deceiving myself, thinking I'm not blameworthy. The Lord will then reveal the motives of my heart. He'll say, Paul, you remember when you did this? Here's why you did it. So your motives were not right before me. So God didn't look at Cain's offering. He looked at Cain's heart and his desires and saw that Cain was not right before God. He had some problems internally. And this is why David told Solomon the following. Watch here. See how serious it is? If you want God to then reward you strictly on what you earn, strict merit, all of us are going to hell. That's why it's grace. Look what David tells Solomon. Watch here. 1 Chronicles 28, verse 9. As for you, my son Solomon, know the God of your father, and serve him with a whole heart and a delighted soul. For Yahweh searches all hearts and understands every intent of the thoughts. If you seek him, he'll be found, but if you forsake him, he'll reject you forever. Bye-bye, once saved, always saved. See, that's the answer.